Hello, I'm Trip Weaver. I'm here with Miss Katie Scott, and I will be interviewing her about her artwork she's brought here today. And what is the title of this work?
This piece is called The First Salutation.
So, what does this mean to you?
The first salutation is a memento mori, and that is a reminder that everyone dies. It is something that points out the fact that we all die, that nobody stays here forever. Um, and I was exploring that aspect because it seems to me that many times people refuse to admit that this existence that they have here is not forever, and that they refuse to get their ducks in a row, so to speak, and do the work that they need to do so that when they do leave this life, they're in a better state of mind.
So, I would like to interview you on some things called Schaeffer's Four Standards. Now, these standards can be special and unique for everybody, so there's no right or wrong answer. I would just like to know what you think about them.
All right.
So, starting off with something called technical excellence. How do you feel mediums were used to convey your ideas? And just what mediums did you decide to use?
Well, the type of work that I do is called assemblage, and that means that I take disparate items and put them together in a way to convey an idea or an emotion. Um, it's not it's not painting, although it may involve aspects of painting. It's not necessarily realistic sculpture, although it might involve aspects of realistic sculpture. But something will grab my attention. For in this case, it was a quote from Moby Dick, and I'm going to read the quote that is the impetus behind this piece by Moby Dick by Herman Melville. Death is only a launching into the region of the strange untried. It is but the first salutation to possibilities of the immense remote, the wild, the watery, the unshored. That had an emotional resonance with me. And when that happens, then I try to manifest that emotional resonance in a physical form. And my preference of doing that is, rather than trying to realistically paint or something like that, is to use materials that would not ordinarily be used in a piece of artwork in such a way that I feel like I have satisfied my emotional connection to it, and also created something that others might understand and have an emotional attachment to.
I like that very much.
Okay.
So, before we move on to the second standard, can you walk us through what some of these things are in this?
Sure. Um, well, it is obviously a boat, and the soul oftentimes is pictured by artists and writers as a vessel that's moving us through the world and moving us through the spiritual aspects as well as the physical aspects. So I wanted to use a boat motif. In doing so, I began looking around in my studio where I have a large number of items that initially have no connection to each other, and I wait to see if something speaks up as if it will have a connection. If I notice, say, this instance, this piece of wood looks like a boat to me. So that would be the first thing. And then I build on that, building the boat shape, piece of wood as the water. These are book covers because I wanted the boat to be resting on on knowledge, and the books represent knowledge to me. This figure is actually a threaded spindle, but I thought it was appropriate for the figure on the boat because it's wrapped in so many threads as we are in our life. We are bound and bound and bound and bound by threads to other people, other instances, thoughts, emotions, ideas. You can't escape being bound in some way. Nobody stands by themselves. So that's why I chose to use this figure. This pitchfork looked like a sail to me. So even though it is just it's a metaphorical sail, I felt like it was appropriate for the boat. There's a key that's hanging on the back side of the boat because the boat is the key to moving yourself through the spiritual realm and also to attaining knowledge. So these are the things that I came up with. I could have gone in some different directions, but these things felt right for the boat. And sometimes when I'm working on a piece, there's such a connection between my spirit and my physical capabilities that it almost feels like the piece itself is making itself. And I'm working at such a degree of fast creativity that when I'm finished, sometimes I step back and I say, "Oh wow, how did that come about?" And it's a very intuitive process, and when everything works, it's great. Sometimes you struggle, and when you're struggling with a piece, I usually step aside from it because pieces are fighting. They're not wanting to be in the place that I thought they wanted to be.
So you think when they fully work together, that shows a great deal of unity
Yes,
and things that
yes,
can't necessarily have unity
yes.
when you think about it.
I think when the pieces fit together and are emotionally satisfying, that something is wanting to be expressed positively by that connection.
I completely agree. Now, with the second standard, this one's titled validity. Do you think, as an artist, you were honest to your worldview, or do you feel you did this for money or acceptance?
I never create a piece of artwork for money. I always create art to express a need within myself or an idea that I want to explore or something that I don't understand or a statement that I want to make. And it's never about money. It's always about getting something that's inside, outside. Um, I've had a number of shows. Sometimes they sell well. There may be people that find they are connected to a piece that I've created. Sometimes they're connected in ways that surprise me, and it's not connected in the same way. And that's well and good, but I never have created artwork for the sake of money.
So it's those connections that they can have that you weren't expecting that mean more than the money does to you.
Absolutely.
I like that. I like that a lot. Now, the third standard, intellectual content. What's it saying about it, your worldview? And do you think it's necessarily true?
Yes, I think it's true. And I think here is where, Trip, I need to make the statement about where I have come from and where I am at this point in my life. I've come from a background of Christianity. I no longer call myself a Christian. I find that Christianity is too narrow for my belief system that I have in place. I find that spirituality is more broad and inclusive, as opposite as those seem to be. And for me, Christianity is more about shutting things out than taking things in. So while I am no longer calling myself a Christian, you will find a lot of Christian symbolism in my work as I express my spirituality at this point in my life.
So no matter if it's true to these Christians that may be watching this, it is true to yourself.
Right.
I don't know what that's for. Sorry. Cut that out. And the final standard, integration of content. How is it, and how well do you think, is it suiting what you're trying to say and what you used?
Yes, this piece eminently suits what I was trying to say. I felt like that it may sound strange to say that it is satisfied with the way that it is expressed, but it is. I know when a piece is not complete or not happy with the way that I have managed to express what is trying to be said. This piece is very happy with in how I was successful in manifesting it. I think there are concepts and ideas and visions of things that want to be said in the world that are always asking to be expressed. We just don't hear them. And I'm not just talking about a physical artist. I'm talking about a writer. I'm talking about just an average person, that the things that move them, something of beauty that moves them, that is something trying to seek expression of itself through the emotional connection to the person.
Completely agree, and I love how you've done this. Just to recap some things we haven't quite gone over fully yet. Can we talk about some of these rings here?
The rings, they furthered the expression of the boat to me, but they also serve as a point of anchor. So at different points in your life, you'll be anchored by rings into a harbor that is either a safe harbor or a not safe harbor until you choose to loose that ring and move on to another place.
Is that why there's multiple?
Yes.
And I believe this is a candle. Can we talk about what that means?
It's a cup, but it has a gold rim around, and it is like a spiritual offering cup. It represents the internal spiritual aspect of the boat, or the soul, if you would prefer to call it that. Our souls have, how would you put it, a sacred place within that you need to honor by what you put within your soul. And that's what this represents. This is a place where you would put things that would honor the soul.
And you were saying earlier that this is a thing that can feel pleased in itself.
Yes.
And you're saying that it has this place for things that please the soul. Do you sometimes look at your artwork and see it as some type of being, as it might have a soul and it has these feelings about how it fits together?
I don't know that I would say it's a being, but I know that there are connections on the best possible day of creating artwork, and it is creating. There are connections that are made between what wants to be manifested that is not manifested in the world and what I am trying to do. And when those connections are made, when you got the best possible connection, and sometimes it can take me by surprise, then it almost is as if the artwork is creating itself. It's like a part of my brain shuts down, and I'm not saying, oh, put this here, put that there, let's put this here. What will that work? I don't know. We may try this thing over here. It's like it's everything comes together, and I'm just putting and mounting and doing, and it's like I'm not doing it. It's like whatever is wanting to be manifested is doing it
Through you.
through me. Yes.
Do you think that might point back to somewhat of your Christian teaching that you used to have, as God speaks through us as Christians believe?
Surely. Although I don't know that I would term it God. I don't believe that I am significant enough for God to be speaking through me. But I do think it is some spiritual aspect of the great consciousness that is speaking through me and wanting this particular item, however small that it is, to be manifested for whatever reason that is beyond me.
And heard and
Yes.
spoken.
Yes.
I like that a lot. Now, just one last thing. What about this bone here?
The prow,
Yes.
the bony prow.
Yes.
Well, I think that's another, it felt right, but I think that's another aspect of life and death. I mean, it's bone, and we're made of bone, and eventually we will be bone and then finally dust. So I think it's another reference to the mortality of the creation.
I like that a lot. I kind of see that as, even though it's with you the whole time, as this boat is its own thing and it's leading you through life, as you said, our bodies are like vessels and our souls are like vessels. It leads you through your whole life, but it's here. It's like, while this is our end, it stays with us the whole time.
But you have to remember too that artwork, the meaning of artwork is malleable. What it means to me, it might not mean the same thing to somebody else. It is, I guess it's important that it means something to them because that implies a connection to the piece. But sometimes in talking with people, when they tell me what they see in a piece of my artwork, it surprises me because I don't see that perhaps until they say it. And then, of course, they have colored my perception of my own artwork because it's once you see another aspect of it, it's hard to unsee it. But always interesting.
I completely agree. Taking in those new points of view can be a really big way of how you see it yourself. Just finally, I would like to ask if there's anything else you want to contribute about the artwork, not about the artwork, something about yourself, anything like that before we conclude the interview.
Hmm. I don't think so. I think that's pretty broad. I do better responding to questions than having just to make a broad statement. All right.
Well, I'm Trip Weaver. I was interviewing Miss Katie Scott about her first salutation, and thank you very much.